Welcome back. Welcome to Lose the Veil. My name is Leslie Brown, and I'm your host for this podcast. And I'm here with a panel of amazing women. That's Stephanie, Brianda, Jean, and Bonnie. And together, we take you on a journey to explore and cultivate a deeper connection to our divinity. Today, we're going to continue with Hinduism to get a better understanding of Shakti and the Kundalini. Our panelist today is Brianda.
Hi, I go by Solar as well. That's my artistic name. I love identifying as a child of the universe before anything. I am super immersed into my creative outlets, which currently are music and writing, and I am a licensed massage therapist. So my assignment was to look up Kundalini, and the term Kundalini means coiled snake or sleeping snake. It is described once activated by the Shakti or power to begin its ascent through the seven chakras of the body to arrive at the crown of the head and reveals enlightenment. She is known as the destroyer. Her job is to destroy the misguided thinking, purge the body and consciousness, and restore God's living temple. And then something else I got was that the Kundalini is considered the Kali aspect of Shakti. As Kundalini or Kali makes her ascent through the seven chakras, she destroys the distorted thinking patterns of each chakra and renders them pure and able to reach enlightenment as she ascends. So, example, the first chakra is the root chakra. This is primarily concerned with physical survival. It is our fight or flight response to life. Balancing the chakra before we move through the others gives us the necessary stability for true growth. This is the job of the Kundalini. It's so important to balance the root first before you try to do anything else. So important. I feel like a lot of mental instabilities are rooted in this because people hear about chakras and immediately they want to open their third eye or do other things. And if you're not rooted, then you can mess yourself up, I feel like.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that.
Anna Dia Judith states in her book, Wheels of Life, when we are unstable, we lose our center, fly off the handle, get swept off our feet, or daydream in a fantasy world. Okay, that's me. First of all, okay, we lose our ability to contain, to have, or to hold. I mean, the fantasy world part. I daydream a lot.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's okay.
Has anyone experienced one of these issues at some point in their lives? What issues?
The
Good one.
unstable,
Losing
our center,
uncensored.
flying
Flying
off the handle.
Oh, we all flew off
Definitely.
the handle every now and again.
I'm like, I didn't even recognize the issue. I'm like, what issue?
That's a good point.
But the other part too, this ability to contain or hold, this ability shows up a lot in a lot of us when we're not stable. Can we hold a job? Can we hold a relationship? Can we hold money? Can we hold those things? And we live in a society where that is almost rampant. A lot of people can't do that. So where does that come from? Not being centered, not being rooted, not being grounded. There's so much information about the root chakra, and you were so right to say how important it is in terms of our mental stability, in terms of just so much, so
Yeah.
very much.
Doesn't
Yeah.
it have something to do with your survival too?
Yes, yes, yes. Your survival mode. That even your physicality, even your sturdiness and your physicalness, and we live in a society that does not want us to be rooted.
Mm.
You got to
Yeah.
think about that.
Talk about it.
Yeah, it doesn't want us to be rooted.
But it's part of the game too, right?
Yes, it is.
It is the game.
It's
the
master.
game of
It's
life.
a master
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And when you said this, I just newly have or to hold. I've always been present to like who I am as a space or as a presence or as someone who um, is accountable for things in life, right? That I get this opportunity to hold stuff. But I just got, when you said what you said, Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
that in our marriage vows, it says to have and to hold. And
Wow.
I
Part.
never saw that as a privilege. I mean, I've known, obviously, when you, like, in your vows, it is a privilege.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're actually have the privilege that one, we found each other,
Right.
whoever my other is. And that, we get to publicly
Proclaim that.
or have our family, whoever, right, have our community witness it.
Mm-hmm.
But to have and to hold is like, wow, you have the capacity now between you and this other person to have and to hold.
Isn't that between the relationship, to have and the whole?
Sure. Well, even the community, right? Like that you're also creating yourself as someone who can be relied on in this community. At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But you can do that by yourself without being married.
True.
But what happens is if and everybody comes in with this root chakra at a different space or different opening, but that's one of the ways that you recognize people, by their ability to hold a job, their ability to hold a marriage, their ability to be in those places. Then you can say, oh, okay, so they don't have as much root chakra issues as I got because I can't hold a job and I can't do this, that kind of way.
But it also depends.
Tell
I
me.
feel like that, yeah. Because you can hold a job and be totally miserable. Does that mean that your chakra?
No.
So it looks different.
Well, it does look different. But what I'm saying is, once the root chakra comes open and you start the energy going up and it opens all the places, then that person is not going to stay in that job because they're going to follow their heart and go and get the job that they like, or the job that means something to them. But it's so important that is the basis of everything. That's the difference. So you're right. People say, oh, I want to open my third eye. Yeah, well, guess what? You got to start from here. You can't start from up there, because that is just going to take you out, and you're not going to be present. So we have a lot of people walking around not being present.
Building your capacity to hold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like being able to receive. How much energy can you hold, right? Because you hear people talking about receiving energetic downloads, right? Which we're doing all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. But when people really are able to receive downloads, and like they'll put out a whole book that
downloaded,
and they literally just it didn't come from them. They were literally, it was just a transmission, solely a transmission, and it's because they have that capacity. And I never looked at it like that until right now. Wow.
Yeah.
Like even when people win the lottery,
they
right?
can't hold it.
A capacity for something, and if you don't have that, then they're like bankrupt again. You have all of these athletes who millions of dollars, they abuse their bodies and whatever, but still they're homeless, or there's Or people who they want to be a star. They just want to be a star. They become a star. Whoa. And then there's like, what do you do with that now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you hold it?
Exactly. This is a random analogy or comparison, but have you ever watched the show called Hot Ones? It's a YouTube series.
No.
Mhm.
And it's a series where it's an interview, right? So the interviewer he basically he has like a guest, just one guest usually, and they go through a series of wings, 10 wings, each sauced by a different hot sauce. And so like the level of heat goes up with each wing until they reach like a Scoville level of, I don't know, like a million. It feels like they literally go from like 0 to 1,000 with those 10 wings. And I remember one time he had a guest where he was like, and the guest, he's also a chef and a restaurateur, so he was just like, no, I know how this works, and he's a fan of the show, so he was like, I'm gonna start from 10 and work my way down, like I'm gonna get the hard part out first. And he started with the last wing.
Oh, he fell out, didn't he?
Flew off handle, flew center, unstable. He stayed and did the interview just because, he was like, nah, I'm here for the interview. But he could not keep it. And he ended up coming back for a second show, like later down the line, because he felt like he had to redeem himself and do it the right way. Because there's a method to that madness. You build your capacity to hold that heat.
Yeah.
And when he did it from the top to it did not work. He was like, oh yeah, nah, I should not have done that.
But he was showing more symptoms than that, wasn't he?
Yeah. And so, that's what it made me think of. I was just like, like when you try to get all, and then meanwhile, so you become all flighty and unstable, and and you don't know what's what. And it's because there's a reason why you gotta crawl before you walk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I came in backwards. I mean, not backwards, but definitely more aware of the higher. And then now is that I am grounding into myself. So I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us do. And I think that there are a lot of people who at this moment in time don't want to be grounded here because they don't want to be here because it's difficult being on this planet at this time. So their capacity to hold is very limited. But the other part of this is opening to hold the presence of God. That's the deal. And that's part of why we're here too. Are we big enough to hold the presence of God to get the work done that needs to be done to stabilize the stuff that's going on? I know I just went way off it, but
no,
I
agree.
Yeah, and that's right. That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
I've been thinking a lot about purpose lately, and not lately. I've been thinking a lot about purpose for like the last 5 years. But especially now because I feel like I keep hearing the word, and now I have an understanding of what it means to me, where for a long time I didn't, and I always felt like, what am I doing? And now I'm kind of like, my purpose is just to be here and do exactly that, like work on my capacity to hold more of the God, right?
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
The God energy. That's it. Like people feel like we have to, because that's what we've been conditioned to do, right? To feel like we have to do things, right? Like, no, but my purpose is to help people and service and this. And yes, but the most like fundamental way that we can service others is literally by just holding that energy and then just shining it out. Like what's your girl, Patricia Cotorovis?
Yes,
That's it. And then anything you do from there is just bonus. Right?
Yep.
Because that is enough, right?
Yeah.
But people always feel like that's nothing. But that's literally everything.
Yeah.
That's literally everything.
That's again why this is so important, because we got to get that. We got to open, we got to hold the light, the God part of ourselves, and just shine. What's that song? This little light of mine. That's what we got to. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you find that you can relate to Kundalini? Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I would only say I relate to it when I do yoga poses.
Why do you relate to it during yoga?
That's the way that I know this word to be like a normal word. And even then, we're not even relating to the real power, right? Like we talk about it and you go, oh, you're strengthening your Kundalini. And that's nice, right? Because you feel like, oh, I'm strengthening something there, wherever it is. It's my Kundalini. So I can relate to it from that aspect, but certainly this is not a usual or normal aspect of my looking when I'm looking from religion or from spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
I initially thought yes and no, right? Because I feel like in theory it all makes sense, right? And I can relate because it makes sense to me and I feel it on some level, but I feel like I don't even know the half when it comes to Kundalini. I don't even know the half. So I can only relate to my capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going back to that. So it's kind of like it's such a new thing for me. Because it's so new, I haven't fully digested it yet.
Good. I've over time learned how to relate to it in a much more intimate way. So in the beginning, I just thought that the idea of the Kundalini going through the chakras, doing this work was amazing. I liked that. It was something different. But then when you get a chance to really experience that and what that feels like, then there's a whole different relationship to it. And that's another key that I think we'll get into later because I think it's connected to the divine part of us, the energy part of us, the God part of us that we don't really acknowledge because we don't know how to acknowledge God inside of us yet. That in and of itself is such a like, yeah, God lives inside of me, but where? What does that feel like? So we still don't even have a good idea of what that feels like to have God living inside of us, although we've been told that now.
Right.
Yeah. But when I think in terms of Kundalini and I think in terms of my experiences with that energetics from that perspective, that becomes a time when I can begin to relate it to, this God part of me, this God in me. But that takes time. That definitely takes time.
What's the word? Solar embodiment.
Yes,
the word.
embodiment.
Embodiment.
Yes. What is that?
Yeah.
The only way that I could relate to it is just by looking at where I used to be and where I am now.
Mhm.
Like I don't feel like I could find it in my body.
Mhm.
I do feel like I am embodying, but the way that I see it is just looking at where I was when I started doing Kundalini meditations, which included the breath of fire,
Mhm.
and then how that really changed everything for me.
Mm.
That's really the only way I relate to it. I feel like later on, I'll look back to where I am now and be like, girl, you totally got it. What are you talking about? So another question, the Kundalini is described as a snake, a sensuous, seductive energy. How do you relate to that?
I think that's the only part of it I do relate to. Because I feel like I was in tune with that from an early age because I love to dance and I feel like naturally when you like I just always knew how to move my body and so when you start moving your body and you're like and then you look at music videos and you start doing mimicking what you see in the videos,
snake,
right? And it's like
snaky.
I started,
I love it.
it's funny, I've been listening to a lot of Aaliyah, BP's. It's been 20 years since she passed and she was I loved her like when she was like at her peak. She didn't even reach her peak, but at that time right before she passed, she was one of my favorite artists.
Mhm.
And she was one of my main that I used to watch her, and she used to do a lot of belly movement, like belly dancing type movement and that kind of movement. And that's that's Kundalini to the fullest, right? When we talk about sensuous movement and seductive energy. And so through dance I feel like that that was a way that I always tapped into that energy, right? That was when I felt like, or even now when I feel like I'm present. I'm in my body, right? You know, I'm fully in my body, and I can feel like I'm emitting joy, you know, and I'm not trying, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Emitting joy. I love that. I like that you said that. Emitting joy.
Does it bring up conflicting emotions?
Yeah. I mean, when I think of the snake and sensuous and seductive, how I grew up was that was not how I was supposed to be in life, because it was too much. It was too much to attract the kind of attention that I didn't have the capacity to deal with. And so I feel like with this conversation, the one thing I get for myself is it's brave to have the capacity to be able to be with everybody, and the capacity is to be alone. I don't know why the Kundalini brings up emotions of belonging for me. I think I've always been hard on myself, that I really feel weird about belonging to stuff. And on the other hand, I want to belong to that stuff, right? I want to belong. Sure, why not?
Why not?
But it's also, as a creative spirit, really courageous to be able to be alone or to stand for something when nobody else is standing for it.
Okay, yeah.
It is courageous.
And that was my last question.
Wow.
What about you, Jean?
On the spot.
Jane's making a face.
Can't tell everybody what's going on.
I don't have a problem with the Kundalini. I think I was a bit combative about what it was considered as at some point with all these labels we put on things. I kind of got introduced to Kundalini kind of late in life. You know, I'm interested in it. You know, I believe when I get the work done on my body, I feel it.
Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about it, right? Like practices related to it.
Yeah.
That's part of the Hindu as well, right?
I think that there are many cultures that have this secret, I don't want to say agenda, but a secret part of their religion or culture that really touches on that, because that is really where life springs from. You can't get around Kundalini. You can't get around sex. It's just there. It's everything. So, but they do try to just make us believe that it doesn't exist. Make us believe that it's not right. Make us believe a whole lot of things about that energy and that sexuality. I could say that I always wanted to be a singer. And when I was young, my mother used to take me to see plays all the time. And I would sit in the seat doing all that but can't move. By the end of the time, I would have headaches because I'm holding back this force, this thing that just wanted to move and create. And it used to drive me up a wall, because I would leave enjoying the show but not allowing myself to enjoy it fully, and keeping it compressed inside this body. And that's a whole nother trip. Keeping this thing compressed inside this body. So that's what we've learned, and there's and that's totally not the thing, so.
Well, when you want to numb a society to sex,
When you
Just
want to
don't
what?
let them know about their Kundalini.
Mm.
Keep it locked up.
That's what you should.
Right.
When you want to numb a society to the God that lives inside of them and their power, then you numb up their Kundalini.
And on that note,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh wow, guys, we doing good. Yeah. Thank you. So we're gonna wrap this one up tonight too, and we have a couple more coming at you. So stay tuned. Night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.